Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of Bloody Good Horror. Welcome in to episode 700. John, they call that a milestone. They call that a milestone in the business.
Get off my lawn!
I'm waiting for the Smithsonian to contact me for our submission as a hollowed part of American pop culture. You know, John?
You mean like the sanitation department at the Smithsonian? Or you left an unnatural deposit at the Smithsonian?
Joining me tonight, first up, we got a special subject matter, which we'll get to in a second. But joining me first up from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
From Manhattan, New York City, please welcome John Schnars.
Hey, Eric.
And finally, I think from Always Sunnyland, is that right? We got Mr. Joe from the Philadelphia area. Is that right?
Yeah, I like to say Phoenixville, but what's cracking?
Sure.
How you doing?
It's like Metro West Boston. It just means like it sounds cooler than wherever you actually.
Yeah, right.
Joe, how does it feel being the person that brought Bigfoot O-faces into my life?
I feel honored.
I was not expecting that.
I don't think anybody's expecting it. In fact, what we'll find out maybe a little bit later, not even the director was expecting it.
Interesting. Okay. Well, they made a real choice there to have the Bigfoot's face fully visible. So at that point, you know, you're gonna let I guess it's just letting the actor do his thing. So Joe, we did for this episode 700, we decided to have Joe here, who, if you don't know Joe, he's been on a couple episodes here. You were on the Devils episode, and then another one recently. I can't remember what that was.
The Menu.
The Menu.
Yeah.
Interesting. So Joe kind of has some expertise here in, let's call it like obscure cinema. Even, you know, much more
Dirtbag films, I would call them.
Much more so.
Yeah, I like that.
Much more so than even myself, and I think I would call like Casey and I the big obscure cinema people on this show. And Joe, your knowledge puts mine to shame easily. So we decided to have Joe curate something really strange for us tonight. So he brought us this movie called Night of the Demon, which predates Night of the Demons by a good 6 years or something, right? Wasn't that 86?
Yeah, what's
like
the year on this?
1980.
So it's copyrighted at the end of the movie, 79. It's technically 1980, but then it wasn't actually released until 83.
Oh.
And then there's some other asterisks because then it was banned in the UK, and I think that has a 1993 or 94 release date. It does for release dates what Italian films do for titles.
Man, you gotta love the UK film censors. Like, imagine watching something so devastatingly unserious and being like, we can't have kids watching this. Like,
Goddamn sadists.
it is the most unserious film ever.
There was
ban it.
aggressive penile violence in this film.
That is
so
true.
yeah,
That is true.
fine with it being banned, actually.
All right, well, let's. That's what we're doing tonight. So let's take a quick break and get into it.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
This is it, Joe. It's your big break. How does it feel?
You know what? I feel more confident than I would with the group of anthropology students heading into the woods.
That's true. That's true. Before we get to that, John, how confident are you feeling tonight?
Pretty good. Pretty confident. Regular confident, maybe, I guess I should
A
say.
regular
I don't
amount.
know. Sort of confident, I guess.
That's pretty humble considering that head of hair you're sporting over there. I would feel supremely confident in all situations if I had that hair.
Yeah, I mean, I guess regular confident is pretty confident in my book. So,
All right, Schnars, please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, I'm very excited. This is a new word for me. Found a new word this week. The word is pareidolia.
Ooh.
That is Pareidolia, pareidolia. The tendency to perceive a specific, often meaningful image in a random or ambiguous visual pattern. So this is the phenomenon of seeing sort of like shapes in clouds and things like that. I found this, I encountered this word because it was listed as one of the explanations for Bigfoot sightings.
Go
So
on.
you got your hikers, you got, they're walking in the woods. I mean, you all been in the woods. Like, I mean, there's trees, you're moving, there's branches.
There are,
and you're just,
that was
you're
like
seeing
spoken,
shapes.
that was spoken like such a New York City, right? There's trees.
There are trees.
I think there's leaves there.
I've been in the woods.
Yeah.
It comes from
Occasional
the
frog you might run into.
I should have said it comes from, I borrowed from the German paradoli, from the Greek para and eidolon, image or reflection.
You know, that tracks, because do you remember, I can't remember if we did this on the show. Did we ever review Not Another Bigfoot Movie, which is like a documentary about these two?
I mean,
the two
Casey, I think, probably asked us to review it 8 times, but
it's a documentary. It's a documentary about like the two saddest gentlemen you'll ever meet in your life, who are like purported Bigfoot hunters, and most of what they do is stare at photos that there's clearly nothing in, and the one guy goes, "See that right there in the shadow? That's a squatch."
Yep.
Like,
they made it? There was a TV show.
It's exactly what you were talking about. Like that they're just like any kind of like. They're just staring in the woods and seeing shit, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, the TV show's even better though, because you have Bobo, who's like bringing Finding Bigfoot was the one. It was on TV on Discovery or something. You have Bobo, who's bringing donuts into the woods, lure Bigfoots in, etc. Good stuff.
I think the Bigfoot in this movie would have been lured.
He might have been named Bobo too.
Interesting. All right, Joe, it's your time to shine, buddy. Tell me, why'd you pick this movie? What can you tell us about it?
So I picked this movie for 2 reasons, actually 3 reasons. It is about to be April soon, so that's like camping, like start of camping season for me. And
yes, camping.
It feels apt.
Yes, that is what I do in the summer months.
It's also the beginning of drive-in season, and this is prime old school drive-in material.
That's
it's what
I very much felt like I wanted to see a last drive-in episode of this while watching it.
It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So back in the day, I used to kind of comb through the whole 72 filled list of the video nasties, and you figure out, okay, what's available, what's not. And it wasn't until recently that this was available in a really nice format. So I thought, what the hell? Make everybody else experience this dick ripping fever dream of a Bigfoot movie with me.
I love it.
So it was one of the video nasties, like the original list.
Yep.
Yeah.
Fascinating. That's I mean, that probably made the film. Like,
oh, absolutely,
that kind of notoriety, because otherwise, like, really?
But it's an American film. Where did they made this in the USA? I think
they made this about an hour north of LA in California.
Oh, okay. There was a couple of scenes that looked dubbed. I mean, a lot of it could have been dubbed anyway, whether or not they were shot in English. But there was a handful of what is it called when they do the dubbing?
ADR.
Yes. ADR.
Yeah. So.
You mean to tell me this crew didn't get the sound in the first take, John?
Well, thing is, the director was only allowed to have 1 take per shot.
Wow.
Get out of here.
That's amazing.
He said he did one shot. He did 2 takes only because they were doing an exterior shot of, I think, the lake and some birds and shit. And a plane flew overhead and just completely crushed the sound.
That's amazing.
I mean, that actually explains a lot of what goes on in this movie now.
It must have been breakneck speed they were moving at. So tell me, what's it about, Joe?
Okay, so Night of the Demon follows an anthropology professor, Professor Nugent, I kept calling him like Ted Nugent in my head, and doing like the sweet guitar solo type thing. He is running his class, which appears to be just a bunch of cryptid like craziness, and convinces 5 of his students to come with him in search of Bigfoot. You get this, and it's bookended by the fact that he's being interviewed by the police, and he's in the hospital, and half of his face is gone.
Well, it's just
hold
like
on.
that from here down, right?
Yeah, but and he's basically wearing. I mean, it's a bandage, but it's like a bank robber bandana setup.
Oh, big time.
I mean, I honestly, when we started, because I came into this knowing nothing, I'm like, what the fuck are they doing with this guy's face? Like, could he? That's one of the reasons where I was like, was this like this guy didn't know any English, and they were just like, oh, we'll cover his face, and then we can just have him say whatever the fuck we want, kind of thing. But it was weird.
He was on an episode of Chicago Hope, according to IMDb. So.
Oh, cool. All right.
Oh, wow.
Good old Teddy.
Well, they get out in the woods, and they find, was it Lou Carlson, I believe, which is a random local yokel. And he knows a little bit about where Bigfoot may be, but Lou doesn't like strangers or young people, and he lets them kind of hang out around the property, and eventually he gets bribed with a bottle of booze and tells them that they should find this crazy recluse in the woods, Wanda. Oh, good old Wanda. So they continue their journey into the woods, sans backpack or anything, because like they're literally just carrying their supplies by hand, if anybody noticed that, which is insane.
Yeah.
And each night, the professor seemingly tells like another flashback story of how Bigfoot killed another person in this woods. And that's how you get some of the deaths that are going on.
It's not even like you're making it sound more sort of like planned and linear. He's just like in conversation with someone and then is like, also this one time.
You know what it was? It's a sitcom clip show for the first 30 minutes. Like it's exactly. He'll just be like, "Hey, remember that time Bigfoot did this?" And then it'll be like, "Doo-doo-doo-doo," and then you like watch the murder. It's like, how do you know? You weren't there. You're not in this flashback.
But the murders are so
amazing,
sort of languidly paced. No, they are. I mean, they are amazing. But that motorcycle sequence, we see the guy riding the motorcycle for a full minute.
Quite a while.
It's like, like, why? And then it's like, oh, he stops. He's like having a smoke. Then he thinks to himself, I'm gonna go take a piss. Then he gets got. You know, I mean, it's just
that's a lesson, John. Careful where you pee.
No, totally.
Well, the group stumbles upon a weird Bigfoot sex cult in the middle of the woods, and that's when you know things are gonna kind of go off the beaten path. It eventually leads them to Wanda, and she is kind of, you can tell something's wrong.
Well, she doesn't speak. She's nonverbal.
No, correct.
When they first meet her,
For a while.
You can tell how badly they want to research Bigfoot because they hang out around Wanda much longer than I would have. They basically just set up camp in her house.
I wouldn't have gone in that place. Like, we can do this from the porch, right? So what ends up happening is the anthropology professor, long and short, I guess, decides to do hypnosis on Wanda, which leads us to Wanda's tragic backstory on why she is the way she is. Also why Bigfoot may be hovering around that neck of the woods. And I don't know if we want to get into said backstory, but it all coalesces in a siege scene where Bigfoot attacks the campers that are at the place, and you find out what happens to the rest of the missing students and the professor.
Yeah, the rest of the professor's face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, but Wanda's dad was the cult leader originally, right? That was my take.
So...
Or was he just kooky?
He was like the initiator of the cult, or certainly like sort of, I don't know. Like, I mean, Joe, you've seen this more than I have, but like he's dead by the time the anthropology crowd runs into this cult. Like he's been dead for years.
Oh yeah,
So
I think
they're
the cult
carrying
heard the
forward
story.
his thing.
Yeah. So the cult heard him ranting and rambling about how she has like the seed of the demon. But I believe that once he essentially killed her baby, her half human, half Bigfoot baby. Clearly, I'm omitting things in my summation. She kills him, and then the cult kind of picks up trying to continue to have Wanda be impregnated with a. The thing is, though, it's not even a Bigfoot child at that point because it's just another weird fucking cult member that was lying on top of her when the students find her.
But that wasn't Wanda. That
Okay.
was
No,
I thought it was.
We should back
no,
up.
I don't think so.
We should
I
back
thought
up.
it was a brunette, to be honest. But who knows? You can't really tell that much.
I thought they
detail
were
out of
just
this.
like playing the game.
I just zoned out so hard, you guys. So let's back it up
Yeah.
and talk about if we like this movie or not. All right, John.
Okay.
Since you didn't synopsize, why don't you go first? You never get to go first.
Oh.
What do you think of this? You're the person I enjoy inflicting this stuff on the most.
Well, look, I mean, as soon as you said that Joe was going to be selecting a movie, I knew that it was going to be something pretty wild. I wanted to go in as cold as possible. I looked up when you sent through the link. I was like, well, let me just like see when this movie is from. Like, I didn't want to go in completely cold. And so then I saw like the year, and I saw that it had something to do with a Bigfoot. And that was basically all I knew going in. This movie's fucking wacky. Like, I would never describe it as a good movie. That is certainly not, I don't think, the goal of why we were here to discuss it. It's entertaining. Like, I was entertained. And you know, I mean, at a certain point, that's actually like the best thing I could possibly say for this movie. I do have so many. I asked Joe over email. I'm like, hey, is there anything I can like read about this movie? Like, is there things I should know about this movie? And he was just like, I don't think so. Basically, like, no. I have so many questions about how a movie like this even comes to be. You know, I'm sure I could find some information on the internet, but like,
that's not totally true. Joe did come back with a classy picture of the director in his shirt and tie and Budweiser jacket.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if it was made in like 78, 79, I would venture to guess some producer or somebody with a little bit of money saw how much money Halloween was making and went, hey, we can do that. Let's get some, you got one of them filmmakers? Let's just do some stuff.
Did they have
That's
a
how like
writer,
90%
though? Like,
of the horror movies were made between like 78 and 82. It was like,
yeah.
hey, that Halloween made a shit ton of money.
It's just like the point Joe made earlier about they let him do one take. It's unclear how much this was even scripted, like versus people just saying shit, and then they had whatever tape they had, and they're just like, we got to make a movie out of this.
It does have a little bit of a proto mumblecore vibe, John, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, look, I had fun. I probably would have enjoyed it more had I been more in an altered state of mind.
Intoxicated.
And you know, like that would be my recommendation for anyone who's going forward with this film.
Casey.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with Schnars. I'm always down for a Bigfoot movie, but this wasn't a good movie by any stretch, but it is entertaining and there's some funny stuff that's going on there. I would go on to say I wish we saw more of the weird Bigfoot sex cult that kind of showed up and never really played a part again. I would like to have seen more what was going on there, but there's some parts of this movie that made me laugh out loud. There's some great kills that happen in here. The effects sometimes are a little questionable, but you know what? You can tell they're having fun and doing their thing. Just some of the things that come across you don't expect to see in a movie in general. It was pretty great.
You sound so thrown. I love it.
But like at one point when Bigfoot shows up, me as a Bigfoot purist, I had to laugh, you know, when like there's at least 2 students that were taller than Bigfoot when he showed up at the cabin, things like that.
Oh, I mean,
Well,
Well, they
like
make him look really big in some of the shots, and then like when he stands next to other people, like they're
The-
doing
Yeah.
things camera wise.
the choice to put him in a Bigfoot suit, but then have his human chest be bare, and then also like he's kind of has some prosthetics on, but it's largely just a man face. It's like Bigfoot and then Steve's face on it, basically.
Yeah. Well,
I
it
mean,
was sort
which
of
is a
like
great. I honestly
He's
is
kind of Lou Ferrigno looking
It's an
a little.
inspired.
Yes.
Yes.
It's an inspired choice. Yeah, it is Lou Ferrigno-esque. That's a good pull. What do you think of this movie, Joe?
This movie is not a good movie like whatsoever, but it was a conundrum, and that's why I kind of love it. It's a series of choices that should have never been made, but the way that they kind of all come together, everybody is like 100% like in on what they need to be doing with this movie, which
Mhm.
is just wild to me.
There is like an earnest.
or none of them knew at all what they were doing the whole time.
But that's the point. There's like an earnestness to it that makes it like legit camp, and that's kind of what's amazing about it.
Mhm.
Yeah. It has some shocking scenes. It has more male nudity than it does female nudity. And I think for a movie shot in the late 70s and released in the 80s, as far as horror movies go, is far and away just different.
If you like toned man butts, this movie might be for you.
Mhm.
Guys were getting their
Who
squats
doesn't?
Yeah, and I found my appreciation of it grew actually when I was doing research for this episode, because I learned a little bit more about the production, and ends up kind of being one of those retroactive, like, holy shit, this is what I'm actually looking at. And it's like when you find out how Spookies was actually made, you look at that movie just a little bit differently.
Yes, and again, like that Spookies that he did on. Didn't he do that on Last Drive-In?
He did, yeah.
And talked about how like it was basically 4 different movies that they cut together or something like that.
Yeah.
Like they kept restarting it.
Yep. And there's another great documentary Vinegar Syndrome did on the making of Spookies. And you had two directors. This had something similar, which if once you know it, it's like, oh shit, now it makes sense.
You gonna tell us?
Yeah, I was like, what was the thing?
Yeah. Well, this one time
Dramatic
Bigfoot killed this person, and then I go off in some sort of like murder soliloquy on how Bigfoot ripped another man's cock off. So the director, when he first shot this, there was no blood, and it was all meant to be tension horror. Yeah,
Man, without the blood, this thing's unwatchable. So I'm glad that somebody changed their mind.
Yeah. Good call.
that was the producer. So they showed it at a test screening, and at every horror moment, the audience just erupted in laughter, and they got really worried. The director never talked to the producer after that night, and the producer went and shot essentially all of the gore scenes and added in everything that's kind of insane about
You
this.
can kind of tell by the way it's cut now that you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah.
does
Yep.
make sense.
So he and then heard about it, heard that it was banned. He had no idea why it was banned, because what he shot should never be banned at all. And yeah, what you have is Night of the
Oh,
Demon.
because the director was like, wait a second, there's no gore in this movie. That is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Man, that's wild. I do
Yeah, well, a
love.
lot of the. Well, go ahead, Eric.
No, I was
sorry.
gonna say I just love the stories of that era of filmmaking because it was so seat of your pants, non-union, like just get shit done, no permits, like that. Man, I miss that era.
A lot of the kills had the sort of establishing shot, then some violence starts happening, then like extreme close up
Extreme
of
close-up, yeah, which is your
the
tell.
the guy getting his arm ripped off, and then it's sort of like he's like walking away, but then it's like another extreme close up of just the arm.
So
like,
Yeah.
I'll go next, but I'll start with that because like one of my favorite things in this movie is like 50% of the gore is so clearly like sale day at the deli counter. Like
Yes.
that arm rip, they rip his arm off, and there is 100% like a fucking pot roast sticking out from under that guy's t-shirt.
I thought it was a
You
chicken,
can,
like,
or
chicken
like a
thigh.
prime rib or something. Like you can literally see the it's so funny. And then later they definitely went one day and was like, "Give me all the guts you got." and just like
Oh.
stuffed it into that dummy. Then at the finale, and Bigfoot's like whipping the guts around for no reason. Like
Yeah.
the whole finale, by the way, the last 5 minutes is in slow motion, which
Yeah.
Yeah.
really spoke to me, as you guys might have guessed. But yeah, I agree with you guys. It is a bad movie, but at that special kind of bad. And I think a big part of it is the kind of unwavering earnestness from all of the actors. Like they really just there's like a happy-go-lucky vibe to their performances of like we want to find out about the creature and look what I discovered, and it's so like Scooby-Doo or something.
Well, one of them's like, I'm just here for extra credit or something. Like there's no characterization, to be clear, but they're like,
But also like
Yeah.
no one is like setting out to prove. They just all believe, like even before they even see anything, right? They just like all believe it, which is kind of funny. So there's never any discussions about like, are you sure there's Bigfoot?
well, they don't know if the teacher's crazy. Like they
Right.
don't know if that he's correct, but they're 100% in to help him figure it out.
Right.
But
So-
the teacher's also not helping his case, because everything that happened in the woods, that could be a Bigfoot.
The gore and the kill scenes are amazing. They are very strange. Like the music is really and maybe this kind of speaks to what you're talking about with the different versions, but the music is like almost sedate during the kill scenes.
Yeah.
It's like this
Well, the last
Yeah.
sequence.
it's like this creepy psychedelic scratchy kind of thing going on. But I kind of like it. It gives the kill scenes like a very strange vibe to them. And then you can tell they wanted to get everything they could out of the gore, because they just repeat a lot of shots during the murders. Like when the one guy gets stabbed in the shoulder and he falls to the ground, they cut to like the same shot of him falling to the ground like 3 different times. So you can tell they were just trying to milk what they had for all it's worth. So it's very charming. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the most fun thing to watch on your own. Like that's kind of the virtue of the way we watch movies for this show. But if you have a like-minded friend, or you could possibly catch a screening of this somewhere or something, like, man, it's the way to go. It'd be a lot of fun.
The drive-in viewing, as Joe mentioned, would be fairly epic.
Yeah.
Drive-ins are really
Yeah.
missing out. Like drive-ins should be playing stuff like this on like Tuesday night.
Come
I
out to the
don't know.
Mahoning. They do.
Do they?
Yeah, that's like the one place
Who
in the
is going
country,
to the- Yeah.
and that it's like 13 hours from here or some shit.
Are they like? Do they get this on a print, or they're just showing up fucking DVD something?
Oh no, like they have. It's all 35 millimeter. Like the one Tuesday night, they were doing a print of Pink Flamingos.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's well.
You know what?
Pink
I thought they
Flamingos
all
is
had
like
to, I all thought they all
slightly
had
more.
to update, like upgrade to digital or something. in the
Joe, I
last
take it
5
back.
years.
The Haunting Drive-In is 3 hours from here, so let's make it happen.
Ooh.
I like it.
I didn't think it was that close.
That's the idea that this goes better if you have people to watch it with is a great point. I mean, case in point is like I was watching this on Sunday night or Monday night, and it was getting after 10, and it was taking everything in my power to not keep texting Schnars and Eric dumb shit that's coming up on screen.
Right, and I did when I was watching because I knew you guys had
Yeah.
already seen it.
yeah.
All right,
It's very wacky. It
starting
is just, like, extremely
starting with
wacky.
basically the opening scene, which is the sex scene, one of the funniest sex scenes I've ever seen. It's like they're like rubbing up against each other, and literally they're alternating with each other and going, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what kind of call and response sex scene is this?
Is that in the
Um,
van, or was there another? Am I forgetting a sex scene?
It opens
that's
on
in the
one,
van.
doesn't it?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
door's wide open, which like right there, like I mean, I don't know too many people that would be like, hey, you know what? Let's just leave the door wide open.
But that was one of the flashbacks, right?
Yes.
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 Because that was before the professor and the students got there, because that was like how it opened, right?
Correct.
I think you're right. Yeah. Again, like a clip show.
My
So-
favorite was the guy in the sleeping bag. It's the
Oh, yeah.
shortest, and it literally. I think it happens. I believe they're still at school,
Oh my god.
and he just says,
dude.
well, there was that other guy. And it cuts to like a
Bigfoot.
dude sleeping on the ground, middle of the day.
It's so good.
Bigfoot comes out of nowhere, picks him up in his sleeping bag.
And he like a
he's
helicopter style,
Oh.
like that song, right?
Yeah.
North Carolina.
full force.
He's like
whipping
swinging it over
head.
his head, but he does it like 20 times. It's
Yeah.
just like he's picking up momentum. It is. Oh my god! I'm so glad you brought that up, as I forgot it. It's maybe the best scene in the movie.
Well,
Honestly.
and then there's
Yeah.
a shot. The guy gets impaled.
He throws him and he gets impaled.
Great shot of the guy hanging upside down. Blood
Yeah.
starts running out of the sleeping bag, sort of like over his face. That's where the movie. I mean, I guess to Joe's point earlier, that's all stuff that got shot by the producer. So no
Yep.
credit to the director. But this producer knew what he was doing. Like that's just like
Yeah.
Now I wonder
A
about
great
that
little
scene.
add-in.
I wonder about that scene too, because like when he first gets stuck with the piece of the tree, there's no blood, and then it
Yeah.
cuts
Yeah.
away, and then when it cuts back, it's like all blood everywhere.
I felt bad for that actor too, especially now that Joe's told us that everything was one take. Because the first thing I noticed is he's hanging upside down and the blood starts flowing, and that's going straight up his nose.
Oh, it's filling both of his nostrils. It's like, oh my god.
Oh, you know
I'm
what?
like,
I will
that's
give
gotta
it-
be hell.
I will give this movie credit for one inspired visual, which is in the like opening sequence. Somebody gets killed in the woods and their arm kind of falls and they're bleeding and the blood trickles into a Bigfoot footprint and it
Yeah.
slowly fills the footprint up while the credits are going. I was like, you know what? That's like a legit creative moment right
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, that was a great idea. My only complaint about it is, as far as like effects and stuff, if you're a nerd with effects, this is like the worst fake blood you've ever seen in
Oh,
the movie.
oh
In the
Yeah.
movie, but in that shot, it actually
Yeah.
works really well.
The way they used it was cool, but yeah.
The producer
It's-
was all hype on the blood, and he started saying how he's like, oh, you just get corn syrup and some dye, and then just a bunch of water, and it's like that, and you can tell that he over watered all of the blood just
Yeah.
because of how much it's running down.
Are you
Yeah.
saying water?
Yeah.
Is this a Philly thing?
that's a Philly
What
thing,
are-
yeah.
Really? No shit. Learn something new every day.
Yeah, the blood, sometimes it's red, sometimes it's orange, sometimes it's maroon.
Yeah, I was gonna say a little brown there now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, part of the trick is too, you have to add, I think it's blue to it, like a tiny bit of blue to get the like slightly darker red hue that looks more realistic. That was I believe at some point like a Savini discovery that you had.
He
to,
solved that.
well, because like he did Dawn of the Dead, but famously like hated the way the blood was in that movie. He felt like it was too pink. And then so later, as he went on in his career, like that was always a thing of his, was refining the realism.
Yeah.
Should we address the Bigfoot sexual assault in this film?
Sure.
Somebody's got to talk about it.
Did you
This-
say
okay?
I like it's like you're watching it and you're like,
Yeah.
like oh god,
Yeah.
oh, this is happening. Like,
Exactly.
and then just an extended scene where he's like going to town, and like frankly with more realistic movement than I see in most Hollywood. Like it looked like it was happening. Is what I'm saying.
Well, it was better and more realistic than the opening scene.
Like most Hollywood sex scenes are not as realistic as this.
So the film then asks us to believe that Wanda, she like was not happy with the situation. Like she was being raped and like was fighting and screaming and yada yada. But it was Bigfoot. He's very big. She then falls.
you
Like,
just sounded
does she love the Bigfoot? At
Dude,
that
you just
point? Like,
sounded. I have to say this. You just sounded like Trump. You were like, "Guys, Bigfoot. He's very big."
I mean, well, to Casey's point earlier, not huge in this movie, but
No,
we
no,
are,
no.
you know, we're asked to sort of take on faith, I guess, that this is a huge cryptid.
You're right though, because at one point she's like trying to stop them from attacking him when they're all in the house, right? And
Oh,
she's
yeah.
like, he likes me and brings me stuff.
Yeah.
He like takes care of her over the years.
But do they have a sexual relationship later? That was what was unclear to me.
Well, they don't have to worry about dad anymore.
I know, but you would think that there would be other children if they were Going here.
maybe Bigfoot's like, I'm not paying child support anymore,
Yeah.
so we're gonna use.
It's too much effort. Can I ask another? This is, I mean, if folks want to weigh in on the sexual assault, please do. We don't need to move off it. But I have another. It raised another issue with me that I forgot about. No, all right.
Yeah,
Do it.
What can you say about it, really?
It's bad. It's not good. We don't like it. We're against it. They dig up the grave. Very upsetting.
Of the
Again,
of the Bigfoot baby.
Yes.
Yep.
when they open it, my takeaway when I saw what was in there was that it was not the baby.
It looked like a cow skull.
Yes,
Yeah.
that 100. I thought it was a cow skull, and I was like, oh well, because what I thought was happening up to this point is, well, not like once you sort of like know what the hell's going on, I assumed that Wanda was the mom, and that this Bigfoot that was doing all the killing was the baby.
It was her son.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of wondered too.
but then like they just go in a completely different direction with the movie, and that sequence where they show you inside the grave, I'm like, oh well, that's confirmation the Bigfoot baby was never killed, and this is the Bigfoot baby, and it's running around and killing people, and like whatever, Bigfoot dad is gone, or just passed away from old age.
And we've been joking about it, but short Bigfoot, that would fit that narrative because maybe it's like an adolescent teenage Bigfoot, not being a smartass, but right,
Casey,
it's not fully grown.
At no point, Casey, was I concerned about the size of the Bigfoot, but you're right. That's a fair assumption. I don't know. That was like, I did wonder, was that just like a thing where it was written one way in the script, and then they were just like, fuck it, like we're gonna shoot it a different way.
I don't know, but all I know is the professor just turns because it is clearly a cow skull in like the box.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yep, that's a Bigfoot." I was like, "No, you did not just fucking do that."
He's like gaslighting all of the people there and the viewers.
And especially when they show us the baby, because that's like once we knew, especially once the assault scene started and she started telling the story of what happened with her dad. It's like, oh god, they got to show the baby. I hope they show the baby. They finally showed us the baby. It didn't look like a cow skull. It looked like one of those Munchie dolls.
Yes, holy shit. Oh man, John.
Yeah. Yes.
Did this movie make you believe in Bigfoot?
I believe just as much today as I did.
And
before we
how
watched.
much is that?
0%. I'm a 0%.
When I was a kid, dude, I wanted Bigfoot to be real so bad.
Oh, dude, 100%. 100% agree.
I was sure that he lived in my woods, but if he looked like that, I would have been more scared.
Dude, you're in Indiana. If Bigfoot exists, he's probably in your woods.
Oh yeah.
Well, if Casey is
That's like
stomping
you're
around
in-
the woods, other people are
True.
seeing you and getting concerned.
You're in
That's
Squatch.
where we're at now.
You're in Squatch country over there.
Well, I was gonna say this Bigfoot. If you wanted to make the comparison, it would have been about hair length wise of me in Pandemic. At one point.
I just loved how they were like, no, we have to see his full face and chest. Like, it's so weird the way he's half man, half Bigfoot.
I didn't hate it because
No,
I mean,
I love it. It adds to the
Yeah.
whole ridiculousness of everything. It's just it's a hilarious decision.
They a lot of times, especially Bigfoot movies, they really lean into the ape like features for everything. I thought this was an interesting take as far as a Bigfoot creature goes. It was something different, and it wasn't god awful. Everything they had him doing, not so great, but he looked cool.
Do you think the producer added the O face shot in? Didn't you say there was a story about that, Joe?
So the producer adding in the O face for Bigfoot himself?
No, you said when I brought up the O face earlier, you said there was a story that the director was surprised by. Oh, that you're just talking about the whole thing in general.
Oh, it was just the director. The fact that almost all of the really nasty scenes that were shot in
Gotcha.
it,
So
especially
that scene
those
very
close-ups.
much could have been a surprise.
Yeah, and even like that last 5 minutes inside Wanda's cabin, that was the producer's garage.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
Because they go into this other room that you don't ever really
That's
see in the rest of
funny.
the film,
Wow.
and it's just it's like, wait, what? And then there's tons of just
I
random
love-
death machines around.
I love the decision to go fully slow-mo for no reason.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Did they explain why her locked up bedroom stank? At first, I thought that the baby might have still been in there, but apparently it was buried out in the backyard.
Yeah, I don't think so. I did notice. So I think she burned her dad, and were there char marks on the outside of the
Mm.
door?
I don't know, because when they showed her lighting the fire, Dad was in like a shed.
It was like
Okay.
it was like an
because it didn't have
outbuilding.
like an actual door. It was like a slatted door.
My favorite
Yeah.
part about it is that like it's not just that the kills are slow-mo, but like he kills like 5 people who are all running away from him in this room. And even the transition from person to person is slow motion. So like he'll kill and then he'll be like, "Whoa," and like turn slowly to the other side where someone else is like, "No." It's
I
really
did
good.
like what there was the brunette gal when they all went in the house.
Oh, and she gets caught.
Well, Bigfoot shows up. They're all in the house, and they all run into the bedroom that was previously padlocked shut. Every guy in the group turns around and crams in the door and leaves that poor long-haired brunette girl standing
Not a
out there at the end of the
single
line.
not a single attempt to save her life.
Not at all. But then once Bigfoot grabs her, the first thing that went through my head was Willow Smith. I shake my hair back and forth because he was just shaking her back and forth like
That's right, he does shake her.
Speaking of hair, the Bigfoot suit was actually only a bunch of wigs cut and stapled onto a spandex suit.
What?
You don't say.
That makes sense. That makes sense. It's incredibly ratty looking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is
That's
so
good.
funny.
so dumb.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm sure they
That's
didn't
a lot
have
of
to do it.
wigs.
Great.
Like-
If
Yeah.
that's the case, I tip my hat.
Yeah, I mean, you figure Bigfoot's going to look pretty ratty wherever he's at.
Yeah.
Even for that, I mean, it's got to have some kind of self grooming, right?
Yeah. The thing that kills
Like
me
a
with this,
floaty.
so I like the kind of Blair Witch aspect when they first get to town and they're running around asking people in the town and they're all talking about the weird religious zealots and stuff. And I was expecting a lot more out of those religious zealots. And we get to see their little ceremony that they happen to stumble across. The 2 guys climb up a tree and watch from a distance. And then out of nowhere, they decide to shoot their guns in the air to save the girl on the table. But there's obviously like 40 people out there in that cult, and they were, and there's just that group of them. They don't care about anybody's concern and stuff. But then we never see them again after
They
that.
never come back. No.
No.
It's a humongous loose end in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, look, in this movie, I sort of just like let it go. It washed over me and I forgot about it. But you're right. They just break up this religious sexual assault sequence. Or, I mean, I don't know. I guess she was like kind of interested in participating. So maybe not sexual assault. But in any event,
Yeah.
a weird
Yeah.
sex thing going on.
And you know,
And,
as far as cults go, I mean, most of them wear weird robes and hoods and stuff like that. This cult was into flannel. I could get down with that.
Yes, they were just regular woods people, except one of them wore a weird mask, basically.
Yeah.
It's true. All right, fellas, I think that might do it for Night of the Demon, singular. Would you recommend this movie, John?
Probably not outside of the situations we discussed earlier.
Casey?
If you're like a film nerd, like 3 out of 4 of us here, I would say it's worth checking out, but I wouldn't go too far out of your way.
Joe?
I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say pair it with Pottersville right around the holiday season. Do a double feature with your family. Sit back, crack your cold one, and enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're listening to the show right now, you know who you are. You know if you want to watch this movie or
Yeah.
not. Like, you don't need me to tell you, but I would say if you're that weirdo, sure. Like, I'm not mad for having seen it. How's that?
Look, there's way worse things that are coming out recently. Like, this is an
It's
interesting
extremely true.
artifact,
It's
for
extremely
sure.
true.
You
All
get to
right.
see Bigfoot rip a man's cock off.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll do it for Night of
What
the
else do you need?
That's going to do it for Night of the Demon. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. Didn't mean to rush you there, John. My iPad was about to die, so I had to get that bumper in.
Mm-hmm.
John, did you see Scream 6 yet? Did you get out there for a little Scream action?
Nah, brah. I was trying, and it didn't come together for me. But I haven't listened to the show yet. Sounds like general positive vibes.
I was pretty pro Scream 6. Yeah, I think it's pretty decent.
But
I also, again, very highly disliked 5, so it was not going to take much to bring me back here.
I was going to say, like, are you rating it on a Scream scale or just, like, overall, just good quality scale?
That's a good question. 50-50.
Okay.
Like,
in the rankings,
I'm ranking it,
number 4?
I'm ranking it based solely on this new trilogy and what they kind of laid out with Scream 5. I think that it succeeds more than 5 because the main characters, there's less of them hanging around mucking shit up. So they can like really just make a slasher with a bunch of young people, which is really kind of the direction they're trying to head in. And it's like pretty violent and fun. And, apparently they did not actually shoot in New York City, so you're not going to enjoy that part of it, John. But they do a good job of it feeling metropolis-y, and they use the setting pretty well. I'm sure it's shot.
Courtney Cox is in the trailer a lot. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah, she's in it, but like, she's the only one returning person. Yeah. So like, there is much more room for that returning character role to breathe, as opposed to the way they just were trying to shoehorn in Sydney in particular last time.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
They did kind of expand on Gale Weathers a little bit, which was kind of nice.
I do want to correct the record for myself. I think I said in the last show that I might like it better than Scream 2, and then I watched Scream 2 a couple days ago. No way. Scream 2 fucks. It's much better than Scream 6.
Okay, so what your ranking is 1, 2, 4 then this?
I would say 1, 2, 4, 6, 5, 3.
Okay. Wow, 3 below 5.
3 continues to be the worst.
I probably saw 3 at some point. I can't remember though.
3 is the one where Courtney Cox has the bad bangs.
Is that when they have the party in the barn?
They're in LA. No, that's Scream 4.
Oh.
No, that's Scream 4. Yeah. Scream 4 is great. And I honestly I get my appreciation for Scream 4 grows with the days, John.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I know that one's had like I think we sort of liked it when it came out. So.
But I'll tell you what I am, John, sick of is Scream 4 discourse in general. Like being a Twitter person, John, good fucking word. Like, I'm done.
I mean, there's a simple solution to this that I've told you many times, so I'm not going to get into it right now.
Can't do it. I can't do it.
Eric, do you want to talk about the BGH survey?
Yes, I do. You want to?
There is a BGH survey. We take a lot of feedback on the show. I mean, we take feedback in the form of like, you can hit us up on Twitter.
We take dumb questions on the show.
Yeah. Well, no, but like whatever. People tell us shit. We'll like we listen. Like if people are like, yelling at us, we might not like do what they're saying, but we do listen. This is episode 700. We've been doing this for 15 years. We're asking for folks to kind of weigh in. So we put together a survey. It is now up on the website. So probably the easiest way to find it is go to bloodygoodhorror.com. It should be right at the top of the site. We will tweet, we'll Instagram a link out. It's a Google form. I think it's like 9 questions. We're asking for feedback on the show. We're asking for feedback around, Patreon and what we're doing around sort of membership there, and what you'd like us to do more of or less of, or basically like what are things. We have limited time, and so we're just trying to think through.
Right, we have limited time, but we want to keep evolving in smart ways that make sense for us and for a show that's been around this long. But in order to do that, we need good data. Like we need to find out, because what we do is we hear from, and I love this, routinely hear from like a very tiny sliver of like super hardcore fans, and I love those people. we want to hear from as many people as possible. Maybe people that don't write us all the time. What is it you like about the show? Patreon. What would you like to see? That kind of thing. And it's super. We tried to keep it as streamlined as possible, so it's quick to fill out.
Yeah. So
So if you go to the site right now, it's pinned to the top.
yeah, bloodygoodhorror.com. Look for it on social media. If you're hearing this, go fill it out. We would
also,
greatly appreciate it.
If you're a patron member, we'll send out a message on there if that's easier for you to find it there.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll keep it open for a couple weeks. We'll talk about it. We'll hit it up over the next week, 2 weeks, something like that, and we'll go from there.
Sick, dude. John gets excited over a nice Google form.
I love a Google form. Definitely.
We know. You know what I love, John? The BGH Book Club.
Oh, yeah.
I have updates from the front lines. Whitney. The BGH Book Club pick for March and April is Tender. Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Basterica, with translation by Sarah Moses. We're celebrating Women's History Month with this dystopian horror novel that showcases the worst of humanity and just what the human race is capable of when a virus has contaminated all animal meat. Too close to home. As always, folks can participate in Slack or Reddit. And just get on Slack, forget Reddit. And join the challenge on the story graph. Thanks, Whitney.
Ooh, I think I've actually read that.
So go to Bloody Good. Casey, you should go to Slack and subscribe to the BGH Book Club thread.
I know, I should.
I'll wait. I'm just kidding. Next up, we got an email. This is actually great. This might be perfect for Joe here. Long time, Randy says, skinned deep, ? Can we get this reviewed? Our good friend Troy Sauer showed this to me last weekend, and it blew my mind in a way that no other film has in a long time, since my virginal eyes first beheld a Henenlotter film that long. And then a quote from about the movie, quote, so it's called Skinned Deep. The quote is, Bartalos pieces together one of the most wild, surreal, completely bonkers horror films of the 2000s. The main family fronts a diner to draw people in that they then kill or experiment on. Granny is the mother figure who runs the diner. Plates, played by Warwick Davis, is a ghostly white plate-throwing maniac. Brain is a younger man with a massive skull and brain cortex. And Surgeon General is some amalgamation of a mutant monster and futuristic robot with a bear trap mouth. Yes, you read that right. Warwick Davis plays a character named Plates who literally runs around with a backpack full of dining plates to murderously throw at people. Come on, do this. I'll buy your compliance with jerky if need be. If you remember, Randy makes jerky.
Yeah.
It was good. Joe,
Randy's seen a lot of stuff,
Joe,
too, so...
I saw a glint of recognition. I'm hoping you can tell me about this movie.
I haven't seen this movie in years. It was dumb and exactly what you would expect from that sort of description. Was it Surgeon General looks great though, with his he looks like he belongs in like the Batman animated series.
Yeah.
So
looks like it's currently streaming on Tubi and Freevee. So.
Oh man, I'll tell you what, I have fallen for Tubi.
Oh yeah,
I watched a bunch of Tubi while I was on vacation, and what's great about it is the autoplay feature is so good. Like if you play a horror movie, it's just gonna serve you horror movies all day.
Yeah,
and almost like in a TV style.
So here's my question about Tubi: how many commercials are you getting per hour?
It's not bad.
Not terrible
considering it's free. It's listen. There's paid Hulu accounts that get as many commercials.
Yeah, well, no. I'm just curious. That's what has prevented me from checking it out.
It's not terrible if you're okay with some commercials.
Usually when you do get a commercial, you get a block of 4, but they go by pretty quick. But you will see the same commercial over and over again.
Yeah, well, that's streaming.
Yeah.
Joe, you gonna say something?
Skinned deep.
Yeah, I mean, Tubi's the best. It may have actually the best algorithm of all of those streaming
That's
sites.
what I'm saying. My only complaint about it is I wish if you play a movie with sequels, it will play every single sequel until you're done. Which I wish there was a setting you don't have to play the next sequel all the time. Sometimes, I was hanging out on vacation and like watched Tremors, and then Tremors 2, and I watched all Tremors 2 because I like Tremors 2, and then it's like Tremors 3, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
fine.
You're like, yo, don't. Press
I gotta
your
say
luck, Tubi.
the drop off in quality between Tremors 2 and Tremors 3 is steep. Like,
Oh yeah.
we're down to just Bert Gross or whatever that guy's name is, and like he goes back to perfection, and they have a bunch of the original characters, but they're much older now, and like he gets pulled into doing like a fake Graboid tour, and then guess what, John? Graboids come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I've seen 3 back in the day, but
It's really not great. It's
no.
not great. But
Can
yeah.
you skip things? Like if you're watching Tubi, can you tell it like, don't show me more like this, or like how does that work?
I guess I haven't done. I know what I need to do is start an account because I want it to like start tracking me, which is a weird thing to
Yeah,
say.
there you
but-
go.
They've got a great. That's the best thing about Tubi though, is they've got a great catalog of just obscure stuff and weird stuff that. 9 times out of 10, if you hear Joe talking about some weird movie, on Slack or something, you'll think, oh, I'm kind of curious on that. You're probably going to find it somewhere buried there on Tubi.
Oh yeah. Tubi or Midnight Pulp.
They're not even paying us.
Oh.
Guys.
Another
Yeah.
thing I wanted to say, I watched this movie called Horror in the High Desert.
Oh yeah, you were texting about this.
Yeah.
I am hard pressed to find, and I'm gonna literally by saying this, I'm gonna ruin so many people's experiences with this movie, but I don't care. I'm hard pressed to find a movie that scared me more in the last like 10 years. Like, I literally didn't want to be in a room alone in the dark after this movie ended. I was like, hell no. I don't need to brush my teeth. It's fine. I don't need my teeth. There is a sequel that, Joe, you were like really pumping the sequel up. I did not love the sequel as much.
So I'd only heard about the sequel. And in
yeah.
fact, I hadn't even seen the first one. When you had mentioned on Slack, I just did a quick Google search, and it turned out the sequel, I guess, had just come
And
out.
people
or came out
are
last
like
year.
loving the sequel, but I was like, I'm not sure it packs the same punch, but I'm definitely gonna end up putting them both into my found footage rotation. Oh, it's called Horror in the High Desert. The first one, it's basically like it is like almost a 48 hours mystery type fake doc kind of thing. This lady who plays like a family member of the person who went missing, you swear to God, this lady is like real and in one of these documentaries. It's like the best found footage acting I've ever seen. Because when you do like a fake documentary, those are the hardest roles, like the talking head roles, because those people really have to nail that. It's like they found this lady on the side of the road and killed her brother and then put her on camera and was like, we're making a real documentary. It's incredible. And if you
We
go to
don't
her
trust
IMDb,
you to act,
and
so we're
this is
actually
even,
gonna
dude,
kill
this
your
is even better. If you go to her IMDb, she's got like no picture and no credits. Like they found this chick, who knows where, in the desert somewhere. It's amazing. Cannot recommend that movie more.
Where's it streaming? Where can I watch this?
Tubi.
Tubi.
I think where did I see it? Maybe Prime. The sequel I had to rent on Prime. The first one, it's free somewhere, but it's not.
Okay.
No commercials.
I can
Commercials
figure
would
that
kind of ruin it because it's like it ruins attention.
Funny enough, John, you can find it on Tubi.
There you go. That's it for fan mail. What do we got on Twitter?
All right, we've got a couple tweets out there tonight, 3 or 4. We start out with, let me find it here, Well-Adjusted Horror. This is a thinker. I didn't get to send it out ahead of time, so we'll do our best. But if you could take 15 minutes from any horror film and turn it into a short film, what would it be?
That anthology movie, Holidays, that Father's Day one.
Yeah.
It's like the best short movie I've ever seen, hands down. Do you remember that one, John? That's the one where she's
I
walking.
never saw it.
Oh, Jonathan. Skip the rest of the movie. Watch that. It's one of the best found footage. No, it's not found footage. Sorry. Found footage in the brain. It's amazing.
Short. It's a short. That's like a cheat, though. I think you're avoiding the spirit of
Yeah.
the question, but
You're
fair
already
enough.
taking a
It's-
short.
Don't care.
Hey, we have rules to this ass BGH stuff,
It's-
man.
I don't know. I don't have a great answer. This would take some like investigation. I think
the
the challenge.
bus murder scene in that Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie from last year.
Yeah.
Done.
Like, look, there's a version of answering this question where you just pick like the best 15 minutes from like an otherwise like kind of shitty movie. The
That's what I
hard
just did.
part is, can you find 15 minutes that is itself a self-contained arc that when removed from whatever movie is still like very good? You know what I mean? Like, does it have a beginning, middle, and end kind of thing? I would.
You
struggle
mean
with.
like Leatherface killing a bunch of influencers?
Yeah, it's like we meet the influencers and then Leatherface kills them and then we're all just like clapping.
But you can have short films that are just like, you know, moments in time.
like Skinamarink, but shorter.
You mean like
Oh
a
my
Bigfoot sex
God.
cult?
Yeah.
I
I'd
saw
watch a short.
I saw the most insanely pretentious tweet about Skinamarink the other day. I thought my goddamn head was gonna explode. This person literally said they were shaking crying when it was over. And I wanted to throw my phone out of the window.
Again, there is a solution for being exposed to this type of content.
Like, it's funny because
And-
over the years, like, I really have, John,
I think you said it.
I really have matured in some ways. Like, I really can just, most of the time, just accept when people like things that don't like me, that I don't like, or vice versa. I am incapable of doing it with Skinamarink. It made me so
it's
mad.
one thing for someone to be like, Skinamarink wasn't bad.
Yes.
It's another thing for them to be like, my life is different now that I've
Yeah.
seen Skinamarink.
That's what
shaking
this.
crying.
That's what this tweet was like.
I was shaking crying at the end of Skinamarink too because I forgot to put my CPAP mask on.
That's just like the whole noise in the background of that movie is just CPAP.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we hear from at Jimmy McGreeson. Crazy that BG Horror is crossing 700 episodes. They've been there for every major life event I've had the last 16 years and have helped me through the worst. Always good for a laugh and pretty solid people all around. Here's the 700 more.
Thanks, guy.
He's
thanks,
he's
Jimmy.
a long time listener.
Well,
I like that
if
you
he's
guys are
been here
pretty
for...
solid. Not solid,
Yeah.
just
No.
pretty solid.
Joe. That's pretty.
I'll
that's
take
good for me.
I'll take
I'm gonna
solid.
No,
I'll take it.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Next up, we have at Schnecky91. Would anything be more scary than if a frog stood up on two legs and started running at you? Terrifying, if you ask me.
That sounds pretty scary. Sure.
Yeah, I can dig it.
It's like Looney Tunes, the singing frog guy.
Oh, yeah.
Starts dancing.
Michigan J. Frog.
Is that its name?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hello, my baby. Hello,
Yeah.
my darling.
Familiar. I just didn't realize it had a name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's also kind of like the plot to Hell Comes to Frogtown, didn't it?
John, you think John's seen Hell Comes to Frogtown?
Yeah, I know.
I'm sure Joe has.
That was for you, Eric. You and Joe. Eric.
That's that stars Roddy Piper, John, for the record.
Yeah.
Ah.
All right. Last up, we have from at our good buddy Aussie Andy at HorrorFan4129. Congrats on episode 700. In the vein of every Scream movie ever, would you go on a psychopathic rampage to revenge the death of a family member at the hands of teens? And why should the next Scream be in space like Jason X?
Probably not, if I'm being honest. Like, it sounds like a lot of
Yeah.
work.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Have they? Has Scream 7 that's been announced officially? Like it's happening?
Also, these people who are all avenging family members that were murderers. So, like, all right, like maybe you just take the L on that one if one of your close family
Yeah.
members is a murderer.
Yeah. Scream in space would be cool. Look, they got. I don't know. Have they said? Do we know what the 7th one's going to be about?
I want.
And I know, to your question, John, I don't know that it's been actually officially
I would like
announced yet.
I would like a Scream period piece, like when they did Ginger Snaps 3. That's what I want.
Or Prey versus Ghostface, like
Oh.
so the new Prey movie. He comes
Here's
and
what
all
it
of a
is.
sudden turns out
Ghostface gets dropped in like medieval Europe and he hunts people.
We could probably get a
It's-
decent prequel out of Dev Campbell's mom adventures.
medieval Scream, but his costume is like a plague doctor.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Solid. Knights of the Round Table. I mean that was a different, I guess, era than the Plague Doctors, but you know.
so that's changing the whole foundation of the franchise to my murderous dead family member revenge, right?
I mean, the
Is that
ultimate
right?
is at some point. Do you think, like in 20 years, do you think they'd go another layer of meta, and they're like, actually, the Scream movies was a fake series, and within that fake series was Stab, but now this is the real story. Like, we zoom out again.
It's like a found footage.
It's like a built-in reset.
situation.
It's a built-in reset whenever you want. It's right there.
Maybe that's what
It's
horror
just
in the high
free
desert
free
is.
development advice for the Dimension people. Is it still Dimension? Did that go under and get?
Yeah, I think
That's
that's
a good
done.
question. I don't know. I didn't catch it.
Well,
I don't think Dimension exists anymore. Wasn't that Weinstein?
well, that's what I think it. I think it did.
Yeah, I
go
think it's
under,
gone.
Paramount. Or something?
Somebody
Definitely
absorbed it.
Weinstein.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Acquired by Disney.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's probably like 20th century films or something now.
Does that make Neve Campbell a Disney princess?
That's a bummer too, because Dimension, man, Dimension was a great horror label in the '90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Some good
I
stuff
mean,
there.
Weinstein Company, like it's all tainted in
What's going on with the
retrospect,
other
but
one?
they
Is
did
he
a
all
bunch of
right?
shit.
What's the deal with the other one? Is he canceled?
No, I
or
think-
what do we-
No, well, I don't know, by association for sure,
well,
but
Yeah, I
that's
think he
fair.
got hosed, whether he's good or not.
I don't think he was like rapey. Maybe he was. I shouldn't say. anything. I don't know one
You
way or the
definitely
other.
should not say.
Yeah.
Well, he definitely didn't tell anybody what was going
Right.
on, so that's
Yeah.
bad.
Quieter about it. Is that it, Casey, on Twitter?
Yeah, that's it on Twitter.
All right, let's bang through some Instagram here. Your boy is tired. We got a bunch of questions here. God damn. How many questions? What's the most
How dare they ask?
What's the most
questions?
rewarding aspect of running a podcast for 700 episodes?
The friends we
hang-
made along the way?
I was
I
gonna say
mean,
getting to hang out every week.
that's a cliche-
dedicated time to hang out and talk movies with your friends.
That's a cliche answer, but that's really what it is. Like what I answered on Instagram was that like I could be having the worst week, and I know after we do the show, I always feel better because I'm always laughing. Like
Mhm.
sometimes when life sucks, you're not doing a lot of laughing, but we get on here and we start talking our dumb shit, and there's something spiritually very grounding about it.
Yeah, and like Schnars said, it could sound cheesy, but I mean, we've made a shitload of friends over the years doing this thing. That's a pretty big highlight.
And frankly, and like I don't know, it's hard for me to remember what it was like in the beginning, but this is pretty. We can kind of turn our brains off and do this. Like, there's not a
Yeah.
lot of prep going into this show. I don't want to dissuade anybody's notions of BGH here, but like, we're pretty much showing up seat of our pants and just ripping it off the cuff, and like, so it is relaxing. I'm not sure that new creators find it relaxing so much, but
Yeah, it's funny. Wrap that around. Our guest Joe here actually brought up a topic in Slack today, talking about how other podcasters prepare for their shows, or if you watch other movies before you record and stuff like that. To Eric's comment about how we could just kind of sit down and knock it out. That's for me part of the prep work. I could watch a movie and say, okay, I want to talk about that and remember that scene. I don't necessarily need to remember all the details, but I can remember I want to talk about that part because I know these two are going to have other parts they want to talk about.
Well, the prep is also we've done 700 episodes, so like,
Yeah.
It's like the work is there because we've been doing it for every single
Yeah.
week for a long time. I do watch other stuff. I don't watch that much other horror stuff in between, but yeah, that was an interesting question. I saw that.
have you thought about an exit strategy? Will you make it to 1,000, 1,500? Please say yes. That's from Dan. I said ask Schnars how long he wants to do it. I was basically like, as long as Schnars
We'll
wants to
see what you say on that survey.
as long as Schnars wants to hang out with me, I'm down. This is like 98% of my social life, so I have incentive to keep it going.
Yeah. We could honestly say I think that we haven't really discussed it too deep in depth either. So
No,
I mean that's
or at all.
100% true.
certainly when like Joe left, it was like there were conversations. We're like, are we still gonna do this? Like, and then, but once we all made the decision pretty quick, and once we did it, we haven't looked back really.
yeah, it was kind of about, are you still in? Are you still in? All right, let's do it.
in it to win it, baby. And by win it, I mean just keep doing this every week because it's fun. How do you all see the podcast evolving over the next 100 episodes? Well, let's
Plug for the survey.
That's, I mean, literally
Yeah.
like we're keeping our cards close to our chest here, but we're hoping to have some changes. So, but we need some information first. So if you're looking for evolving, the best thing you can do is go fill out that survey.
Yeah. We'd like to know what your idea of this evolving.
I will tell you one thing I've really enjoyed this year is starting to do more old movies.
Yeah, it's been kind of fun.
I find so much more joy in movies like this than I do like a middling streaming release. So personally, I'm trying to weed that shit out. Like either tell me this is like going to be a top 10 movie of the year, or like something like Cocaine Bear or something, or let's watch Night of the Demon. Like that's the sweet spot I'm trying to find in 2023.
Yeah, I mean the hard part is like if we're trying to play the role of helping other people.
Yeah, but I don't care. I don't care about helping other people though.
Well, fair enough.
I want to watch. I want to watch good stuff. Is what I want.
Yeah.
I want other people to help bring me joy. That's what I'm looking for. By filtering the good movies to us. Now, a really terrible movie, I'm in for that. Believe me, like that's it's the middle of the road shit that I feel like I can't take anymore.
Yeah, we don't need any more RIPDs.
Be something is what I'm saying. Either be really good or be aggressively shitty. But like, otherwise, why are you coming to the dance? Blumberg says, no questions, just thanks for 700. You're very welcome. Here's a good one for everybody. What was the last movie that truly surprised you being far better than you thought it was going to be? Joe, what do you think? What was the thing that surprised you lately?
You know what? I'm gonna actually say Cocaine Bear. My expectations were low, and I walked away. I had a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That movie delivers on both cocaine and bears.
Very true.
My answer is Scream 6. Because after 5, I had no hope for that movie, but like, you know, it won me over. And Hayden Panettiere. She's plucky. I like her.
If we're talking just this year, Megan really surprised me. I thought that was going to be pretty stupid, and I got pretty into it by the end.
Megan is funny because, like, I think you see the trailer, and like, objectively, it's made for a great trailer, but the doll is so ridiculous looking. I think we all did this thing where we looked around and we were like, "Is it okay to be excited about this? Like, is it cool? Is it cool to say you want to see Megan?" And then like,
might be on a list.
Once you kind of saw everyone getting excited about it, then I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, let's have a party with Megan. That movie's great. Any chance Vodka Schnars will show up tonight for episode 700?
I considered it. It's so hard for me to get that drunk during the week anymore because
we do this on Wednesday usually. So
yeah, it's just gonna ruin the rest of my fucking week.
We're
so bad.
We are old.
Yeah,
I am drinking some CBD seltzer, John, if that counts. Do you ever find that as you get older, you become more annoyed by poor decision making in horror?
No,
I'm more annoyed by run times, frankly, than
yeah.
This movie, by the way, was like almost an hour and 40 minutes. Like they just needed that extra 10 minutes to get that storytelling.
Wow. I mean, yeah.
Motorcycle weenie ripping.
It could have gone through several rounds of editing further, but it is.
Good friend.
I know. Like decision making though on behalf of characters or like the filmmakers, because I do find myself rolling my eyes pretty hard when characters do dumb shit like run upstairs where they have no way out.
Good friend Tia says, congrats on 700 episodes. Cheers to 700 more. Thank you, Tia. She writes in every week on Instagram. Next up, Polly. Oh, son of a bee. I lost my place. I was listening to an episode of Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, and Schnars got a credits shout out. Yeah, he's kind of a big deal.
Sure do.
That's the company. That is the company that John works for.
I'm supposed to be in all the credits, so if you hear one and I'm not in it, then you tell me, and I can yell at somebody.
Right.
No,
this is a great question.
Call my agent.
This is a great question, Joe. I want to get you in on this too. What were your lives like 700 episodes ago versus now? So this would be fall 2007. We're talking. This show's been around so goddamn long, John. George H.W. Bush was president when we started the show.
Yeah, he sure was.
Wow.
That guy.
George Bush was president. Like, what the?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was still living not with my wife. You know, we were about to move in together. I think I
Really?
like
Wow.
You
Yeah,
guys
we
weren't
like-
living together?
no, we like just started living together after it was like right after, like within like a year of starting doing the show. And then yeah, I mean, I was like I was still at like my very first job, which was a complete, you know, shit show, but
Yeah.
you know,
I was living
so
the
it's-
life of Eric and Schnars with the 6-year-old running around.
God.
But just to
And your
drive
daughter,
home, she's 22 now.
I know your daughter's like an adult human being.
Yeah,
now.
she's turning 23 in a month.
Oh my God, that's
That's
crazy.
wild.
That's one of those things that really makes you feel the passage of time.
Hell yeah.
What were you doing in 2007, Joe?
I was working full time as a chef while going to school for microbiology. So I was just busy and likely drunk throughout most of that year.
Wow.
Everybody romanticizes the lifestyle of the bear nowadays, but that's pretty much how it was.
You ever think about writing a book, Joe?
No, absolutely not.
Joe, they've got these robots now that'll write the book for you.
Yeah.
I see that.
I
and
had,
I want no part.
2000 fall
Still no.
2007. I had just a few months earlier, or like a month earlier, maybe moved to Florida, with my ex, and we were not married yet. At some point, I don't know if we had the dog yet, but definitely no kids. I was like 25, just a child, John, like just a little kid. And I think it cracks me up in hindsight, the hubris of like, one of the really rare things I think about BGH that is kind of cool, we didn't fucking know each other in episode 1. When you listen to episode 1, this is like maybe the second time some of us have ever even heard each other's voices. The idea that we thought like, let's see if there's like, I don't know, is there chemistry? Who knows? Like, let's just do a show. Absolutely insane. But it's what's kind of fascinating and special, I think, about us is that what you hear here was 100% developed live on the show throughout just the years, which is kind of I forget how weird that kind of genesis of all that was.
Yeah, because it was kind of a spur of a moment decision too, where it's like, hey, these podcast things sound cool. We should try it.
Some people had been bringing it up for a little bit, and like I was in the middle of a move and getting a new job and all this stuff. And then once I got settled, I think I was just kind of like, yeah, we can do this. Let's do it. Screw it. And like I don't know, we just figured it out.
We knew we loved horror movies.
You had to like
That was it.
download podcasts on iTunes and like sync them to your iPod.
Yeah.
And I did
I had
it.
to bust out the calculator. I was 33 when we started.
I can't even remember. Were we recording it? It was just a phone call? How the hell were we recording it?
It's always been Skype.
Yeah, it's always
And
been
I
Skype.
had some kind of bootleg. I was on a Mac, and there was some kind of bootleg, like open source thing that would record Skype, and that's what I used. But it was buggy,
Yeah.
so like it would crash.
There was a
sometimes.
service with the phone call thing though, because that's where my experience before this started. Colleen and I were doing a little Cinema Fromage podcast, and I can't even think of the name of the service, but we had to call in, and then it would record it there
Oh,
over the
weird.
phone.
I always use some kind of third party thing that would be capturing the Skype audio. I'm pretty sure.
But it wasn't video. Like, we couldn't see
No
each
video.
other. It
Oh,
was
no.
just
We
a
didn't really
voice call.
start video until around the time we launched Patreon, which was like 2015.
Yeah, because that was one of the Patreon.
We might have been
Well,
doing video for like a year before that, but it wasn't much before.
Yeah, I think we were
because
doing
I had
video
to figure
calls, but
I had to figure all that tech stuff out so that we could do live streams. And at the time, like internet, I think now, like I don't know about you guys, but I get the gigabit internet. But dude, 2015 internet was still real shaky when you were
Well,
trying
yeah.
to do video streaming and
Well, at the start, it was recorded on you bootlegging off of your apartment complex's
yeah.
office.
The first like 20 episodes or something, I was stealing. It was from the pool house that I happened to be kind of in, and it would get kind of jammed up every once in a while, and I would have to go sneak in there and reboot it. Well, it's so stupid. I did eventually pay for internet, thankfully. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, man, life was very, very different. I had a lot more hair.
I had a lot less hair.
It's true.
me too. I still can't grow a beard, though. That was true then and now.
That never changes, John.
No.
I wonder. Same. Oh, Brian says same guy. I wonder how many podcasts have had the consistent longevity of BGH. Probably not many. I do occasionally run into people that'll be like have more episodes of their thing under their belt, and I'm always like, I just have 100 questions. I'm always like, that's amazing. You are amazing.
Wait, Freddie and Amy are still going, aren't they?
Night of Living
Yeah,
Podcast.
they're up there.
Night of Living
Not ahead
Podcast
of
has
us.
more than us. Just ones that I know of. Outside the Cinema, which they were friends that I met out in Boston. They started like 6 or 7 months before us, so they have more. And they've had weeks where they were doing more than one episode too. So they're like,
Yeah.
they're in the 700s, I believe.
That's crazy.
Another person we all know, Derek Cook, who used to do Mail Order Zombie, who eventually created Monster Kid Radio. That dude puts out content like no other, like at least 2 episodes a week of stuff and whatnot. He's catching up to us pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely out there, but there were a lot of OGs that started around the same time as us that after some of them years ended up quitting, and it was always kind of sad to see like the ones that came up with us sort of, wither off at some point. I have this reaction now where I'm like, I like seeing people create stuff, but like people now I think will start a show and discard it way more quicker. Like even after a year, if I see somebody do a show for a year and then quit, I'm like, you did the hardest part. You did it for a year. Like, just keep doing it. But
yeah, that's some
but,
of those.
like,
I guess you'd call them prestige podcasts, or I would. It's just some of the ones that are really talked about high up on the Apple list and stuff. I'm always surprised when they only have like 2 seasons and they're done. It's
yeah,
like,
I mean,
why you guys did, like you said, you did the hard part. This is.
But I'm even talking about like smaller creators. But honestly, listen, like the key to BGH and the key to doing this is, does it bring you joy? And if it doesn't, then don't do it. So I won't begrudge anybody for that. But
Eric with his best Marie Kondo.
Does it bring you joy? I mean, listen, that's a good life lesson.
One more on that topic. You remember how many different horror podcast networks tried to get us to sign up with them? It was just groups of other horror podcasts.
There were always people in the beginning who were trying to make a horror podcast network, but it wasn't. There was never any value add for us. It was essentially like a bunch of fish getting together and be like, hey, let's do that thing that fish do where we all huddle up and then we look like a bigger fish. But like there was no company or money or anything, right? And then like the idea would be like, hey, if we all like team up and then we can just swap promos and kind of cross pollinate everyone's audiences, the problem would be it would every time devolve into a pissing match, and then it would blow up. I watched this happen like 5 separate times, and we just kind of stayed out of the fray because it just wasn't worth it. I forgot that, honestly. There was also that. Remember that?
I forgot that too.
John, remember that company that this was?
That is how networks come together sometimes. Like it's not.
This was more of the website, but we had a company that was like big in the horror space for a little bit. They were going around to smaller websites and being like, "Hey, we'll serve ads, and like we're horror friendly," because they were like they had a horror-y name, and then one day just poof, like disappeared like a fart in the wind and didn't pay like anyone.
Yeah.
Do you remember what they were called? Let's call them out. No. I wish I could remember.
No. I do remember so it wasn't just the show, but the biggest closest brush to fame that I had was, so I had always been on BGH. I had my blog before BGH, Cinema Fromage, that was going for a good while. And we had some podcasts I did with Colleen. Our closest brush to fame is a producer for Wife Swap reached out to Colleen because they wanted a horror family.
That
and Colleen's like,
amazing.
We're kind of normal.
Yeah, if you went on there, they'd be like, can you guys weird it up a little bit? Can you just like,
yeah, because
they'd be like, hey, do you have any Bigfoot hats? And Casey'd be like, actually, yeah.
We did see the family they did get for that episode. Like they showed up full goth top hats, long leather trench coats and stuff. We're like, yeah, that's not us.
Merle says, what's your favorite episode? Would you do anything different knowing what you know now?
Oh, I couldn't tell you what my favorite was.
We wouldn't have made it if we were trying to like correct or overcorrect along the way. We just kind of fucked around.
You just have to roll with whatever happens, I think, at some point.
Oh God, I was worried someone was going to ask what our favorite episode was.
I mean, I'm very partial to episode 500. That was the big clip show that I put together.
Mhm.
Man, I listened to that thing like 5 times after I put it together because it was just so much fun to listen to. And it had
I was
like,
out.
if you go back, if you're a patron, you can go back and listen. It also had like messages from everyone that's involved with the show. Some of those people not anymore, but just reminiscing about their own involvement, and it was a cool listen.
Yeah, that was a good one. I was always partial to the ones that we did at the Horror Hounds, just because we were always together in the same room and drunk.
I don't know if those were fun for anyone but us, but they were enormous fun to record. Yeah. Jason Lives is easily the best of the Friday the 13th movies. I remember the first time I saw it. Do you? I probably saw it with my friend Matt, who was old. He was like a yearish older than me, but that also was like the youngest of a family with a bunch of older siblings. So I would go over there and I could just do whatever the hell I wanted to. So I'm sure I watched it over there first.
I saw most of those at sleepovers in like late elementary, early middle school. I was trying to think, what year was Jason Lives? That's like
86.
one of the later ones, right?
86.
Yeah.
All right.
So all of those were out basically by the time you were doing sleepovers.
I saw Jason Lives in the theater,
dude.
And if I remember right, it was I'm a pretty nice guy. Everybody will tell you the same thing. Never been the bully type, but the most bully thing I ever did, because there's a kid sitting in front of us that was in class that a lot of people teased and whatnot. But one of the scary moments, I'd finished my popcorn, and just as Jason got ready to strike, I jammed my popcorn bucket down over his head. So he screamed, "Ah!"
I have never legitimately been more jealous of a human being than I am of you right now for having seen that in the theater. That is incredible. I wanted to ask Joe this question, but he stepped away. Last question here. Let's hope Joe makes it back. I know you've had meetups in the past. What about touring with the podcast and doing live shows?
That is a lot of work.
Let's see what happens with the Patreon.
Yeah.
A lot of work and a lot of money.
That is sorry, Eric. The problem with that is we all have day jobs.
Yeah,
for sure. I would love to do a meetup again, but like none of us have the bandwidth for that kind of play. It takes a lot of planning.
Yeah,
it's hard to do.
Yeah,
and we really don't want to start a tour and find out there's like 5 people per show.
Well, that's the other thing. Unless you're like real faint, like a tour, that's not going to work. But like, I think we proved with our last meetup, like we can turn it on. Like we packed that bar.
Yeah.
That we did the trivia and karaoke at. I mean, that was pretty amazing. It's hard to think of topping that, but
and like they said, I mean, I have pitched a couple times to Eric and Schnars, and they're right. It's too much work to go through there. There's like, here in Indy, we have Indie PopCon that's all about pop culture and stuff. And they have podcasts that they have a podcast stage, and they book them to do like a live show or something like that. That would be the closest we get, but even that's hard to plan.
Yeah. Joe, do you remember the first time you saw Jason Lives?
I do. Yeah, it was on USA.
Oh, hell yeah.
Nice.
So I forget, it was probably like Rhonda Shear's Up All Night.
I was gonna say, was it Up All Night?
Man, they would play those marathons sometimes. That's the best.
Yeah.
Man, that just made me so nostalgic. I can feel that experience right now.
Yeah. Eric's big influence growing up was Joe Bob and Monster Vision. Mine was Rhonda Shear and Gilbert Gottfried.
I never watched
Up All Night.
Frankly, I never watched Rhonda Shear, and if I saw Gilbert Gottfried, I was like, "Oh, this is the bootleg Joe Bob thing. I don't want to watch this." It was only Monster Vision for me. And God forbid that shit came on of like the people cooking food and introing movies. I was like, "Get the fuck out of my TV."
Oh yeah,
Dinner and a
Paul
movie.
Gilmartin, Dinner and a Movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you weren't Joe Bob, you were dead to me. I didn't care.
Rhonda Shear didn't always do horror movies, but that's where like my love of raunchy comedies came from too.
Oh, big time.
I mean,
cheesy action movies and stuff like that.
I think that's what bugged me is I just only wanted horror, so I didn't like the shows that did other stuff. And it drove me like late in the Joe Bob run, like 99, 2000, they started making him do like Joe Bob at the movies for certain runs where like there was no horror set. He was on this terrible 90s like modern. Do you remember what I'm talking about, Joe?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and like his outfits were bad. He wasn't the Joe Bob character anymore. And he wouldn't show horror, and it was the absolute worst. Like, oh my god, I'm still upset about it. I'm gonna call somebody about it. That's gonna do it for episode 700. It's in the books. Joe, I hope we didn't bore you too much with our reminiscing.
No, I loved it. And I hope I didn't bore you guys with Night of the Demon for number 700.
Definitely not bored.
No.
Maybe confused, but not bored.
I don't think we have. We were so excited for this one. I don't think we've discussed what we're doing next week. But
is there? I think there's a bunch of theatrical stuff coming. Is
This coming weekend, I think the big one is John Wick 4. So, which
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
really in our
Hell yeah.
wheelhouse.
when is Evil Dead Rises?
Soon. I don't know the exact date.
Definitely soon because it's having some premieres at festivals.
Yeah, it just hit South by Southwest was big one.
Okay.
Joe,
Speaking,
I
sorry,
didn't really like the original John Wick. I didn't hate it, but okay, this is my experience for it. Years after it came out, I sat down one night and I did a double bill with John Wick and The Kingsman, the first one.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I liked that way better than John Wick.
Oh my god.
Should I watch the John Wick sequels? I've heard that
we
they're
gotta
actually...
we
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
get off this call.
Yo,
dude.
absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I've heard they're better. I heard they improve.
I just watched John Wick 1 the other day. I've seen them all in the theater, but it's so fucking good. Like I think the first one's amazing. I actually like them a little less as they go on because it gets like a little too kind of like up its own ass with like the mythology and stuff. Like I'm a little worried. The
I just
reviews,
want
I
it
think
to
are
be
pretty good for 4.
I just want it to be
like-
more over the top, which is what I liked about The Kingsman.
I like the
Oh well,
mythology.
you'll love the John Wick movie because they just get
It's
more
like,
over the top.
here's the
as they
thing.
go.
I want to like them because I'm straight up in love with old man Keanu Reeves, and so I want to love anything that he does.
The second one is probably I think it has the best action sequences in it. At least
It does,
yeah.
in my opinion.
The scene where he fights Boban though, oh boy, it's a humdinger.
Yep.
It's a good one.
Yeah,
The cast for 4 is pretty fucking stacked, so I'd say catch up and check it
but
out.
that makes me worried. It's like I don't really want a great cast. I just want John Wick killing anonymous dudes. Like I don't, or women. He can kill women too. That's fine. But you know,
So it's stacked in the sense that it's like legit martial arts stunt people that are being put in like the best possible position for the most amount of spotlight. Like seeing Scott Adkins on like CBS Today's morning show was fucking awesome.
sure. All right, you're right. Okay, you get that one. You're right.
Are you?
I'm ready.
You've convinced me. Maybe I'll try to. I can't do it by this weekend, but maybe I'll try to catch up and catch 4 in the theaters.
I think they're all on Peacock.
I've heard
saw.
4 is great.
Yeah.
So far, so far the buzz on 4 is pretty positive.
Are we sure Evil Dead is not this weekend? I like can't find a fucking release
You're
date
the
on
box
it.
office guy there, Schnars. You tell me.
Oh, April 21. Wow, that's a long way away.
It's a month from now.
Oh
Joe.
yeah. I
Um,
for sure it was coming quicker.
I'm hearing good buzz.
So nothing this weekend.
The buzz is good on that one. That's all
What
I'm
I
gonna
was getting
say.
ready to say though, when we were last talking about Evil Dead Rise, did you guys see the story about Bruce Campbell and how he handled a heckler at the South by Southwest screen?
No.
Yeah,
no.
some guy stood up and was like, "This movie fucking sucks" during a Q&A.
Yeah.
Some dingus.
And Bruce is like, "Fuck off, get out of here."
Yeah. All right. Well,
All right, fellas.
I'm ready.
Episode 700 in the books. Joe, thank you for joining us and curating this episode. We really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thanks
Joe.
for having me.
I would like to, going for, I just want this to be your role on the show, is to occasionally show up and bring us weird movies.
Yeah.
I would love to do so.
So yeah, we don't know what we're doing next week, but we'll figure it out.
That's right.
That's going to do it. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you next week.
See you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.